I watched Channel 4 News last night and I got to 40 minutes in and I thought, are they going to mention the fact that Keir Starmer is under the cosh here? That, you know, Lord Ali and the revelations coming out of the penthouse, and the £18 million penthouse are getting worse. That, you know, the Labour Party's, you know, sort of folding in on itself.
It's just a rich guy, and I actually make no criticism of him. It seems he's played his hand quite well, spraying money and favours around the very top of this government. And people hate that stuff. And they also recall that the last bunch that were the recipients of this kind of largesse were the Tories, and they were the ones partying in Downing Street and so on. And guess who was on their high horse criticising it all?
The political elite often behave as though standards are flexible for them, like consequences are reserved for everyone else, but this week that sense of immunity looked shaky. Keir Starmer abruptly became the focus of swirling political chatter after a comedian reportedly made a joke about an alleged private moment at a Westminster gathering. Talk spread that supposed internal footage existed showing him in an awkward position, with whispers even hinting at personal tension beyond politics. Unnamed attendees claimed clips were referenced at a charity event, and observers began speculating after his wife appeared less visible in public settings. Downing Street dismissed the claims as nonsense, yet the atmosphere behind closed doors seemed strained. Starmer's team is said to be issuing legal cautions, pushing platforms, and seeking removals in an effort to contain the story. To many watching, it appears the Labour leader is deploying every available lever to crush the narrative and silence those prepared to amplify it.
Being, you know, one of the most beloved TV comedians, how did it feel as it's the sort of cancel culture rose and the news stopped? How were you perceived differently by the media, I suppose?
Well, it didn't bother me that much because I thought it was their problem. I thought it was them that were, they're wrong, they're mad.
After reportedly viewing the alleged material, one individual said it was difficult to watch. For Starmer, the charge cuts deep, particularly given the reputation he has built around integrity. The figure who once styled himself as a reform advocate is now being linked to the sort of controversy he previously criticized. Within Labour, unease is growing fast. Party insiders are said to be quietly weighing leadership options, with some describing Starmer less as a strength and more as a political liability who could endanger the party's prospects and, depending on perspective, the country's path as well. Just as many assumed Davidson had finished, he returned with another pointed remark, suggesting Starmer's ascent was aided by influential backers and tied to wider debates around migration and finances, allegations firmly denied by Downing Street.
Is for me possibly the worst and most damaging aspect of this story, that this is a guy who is leading our country, who is the representative of the United Kingdom at the United Nations. You know, he's not the head of state, but he's, you know, the leader of the nation. He has lived a complete lie. I mean, I've said earlier today in the show, I don't know what he gets up to with Lord Ali. I don't know what he does for hours and hours on end at this flat that they seem to be happy to share.
Public dissatisfaction with Keir Starmer and his party appears to be climbing as fresh speculation circulates about his connection to Lord Ali and unusual activity associated with an upscale penthouse. What intensifies the reaction is the perception that major broadcasters such as Channel 4 and the BBC are handling the subject cautiously, prompting debate over how impartial their coverage truly is. To some viewers, the situation resembles a media freeze that seems to spare Starmer from sharper examination. His association with Lord Ali, particularly claims about the property being used for political meetings, has drawn attention. When Labour figures like Wes Streeting are reportedly linked to events there, it further fuels public doubt, leaving many with the sense that the overall arrangement raises uncomfortable questions.
The same penthouse. I mean, this is unbelievable to me.
So I think there is something bigger going on here, and it's annoying because I don't know what it is. And I know that the lobby of political journalists at Westminster feel the same. All of us instinctively feel that there is some big fact here that we're not being made.
I mean, I'm going to ask the question because nobody else will. Is it some kind of sex thing, do you think?
So there have long been rumours about Keir Starmer's private life, and they certainly aren't to do with any kind of doubts over his sexuality, if I can put it delicately. Okay. They are to do with...
Public frustration has deepened following reports of a climate-related donation that critics say was not presented with full clarity. Further strain comes from claims that Starmer recorded public messages inside Lord Ali's luxury penthouse while audiences were left to assume he was speaking from his own residence. For many observers, that sparked renewed concerns about openness, not only surrounding Starmer but across Labour's leadership. The most damaging element, however, is the widening trust gap among voters. Although the more personal allegations remain unproven, a lingering sense persists that the complete picture has yet to emerge. Commentators such as Isabel Oakeshott have suggested that parts of Starmer's background received gentler treatment from major broadcasters, intensifying suspicions that significant details may not be reaching the public.
Quite easily understood. It's just a rich guy, and I actually make no criticism of him. It seems he's played his hand quite well, spraying money and favours around the very top of this government. And people hate that stuff. And they also recall that the last bunch that were the recipients of this kind of largesse were the Tories, and they were the ones partying in Downing Street and so on. And guess who was on their high horse criticising it all?
Once again, Starmer's leadership faces scrutiny, this time over his connection to Lord Ali and the use of a reported £18 million penthouse. The situation has sparked another wave of public irritation, with many feeling there may be unanswered details beneath the surface. For a growing audience, the explanation still feels incomplete. The issue gained attention when Starmer justified staying in Lord Ali's luxury property by saying it allowed his son a quiet place to prepare for exams. However, this is where doubts arise. The timeline, critics note, does not appear to fully match that reasoning, as accounts suggest the stay lasted roughly 7 weeks, extending beyond the exam period. Voters are naturally questioning why such an upscale arrangement continued for that length of time. The uncertainty goes further, with people wondering how many family members were present and whether such an exclusive setting was truly required, particularly when more typical options for private study might have been available. Starmer has maintained that the accommodation, said to cost around £450 per night, was correctly declared. Yet critics contend that explanation does not fully reflect the property's true worth. For many observers, such a benefit appears at odds with Labour's frequent criticism of privilege, elite access, and inequality, and that perceived inconsistency is not resonating well. As the situation drags on, it seems to grow more complicated. With details emerging gradually, the sense persists that key points have not been clearly outlined. Whether viewed as a personal courtesy or a lapse in judgment, what started as a dispute over an upscale stay has broadened into a larger discussion about trust, openness, and standards in public life. At its heart, the issue has moved beyond the property itself, and now centers on whether those who advocate fairness are upholding the principles they promote. For many voters, skepticism is intensifying, and if Labour's leadership appears unclear here, it inevitably prompts questions about what else may remain undisclosed.
Starmer and his wife pay for their own clothes. Victoria Starmer has been wearing high-end clothes given to her by a Labour donor. Lord Ali recently gifted her more than £5,000 worth of clothing. He's also given the PM items worth almost £19,000. Starmer did declare his gifts to Parliament, but not his wife's. The gifts have now been registered after the Prime Minister sought advice. And the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner has rejected calls from the Tories for...
Interview 6. Starmer and his wife, Victoria, are facing increased attention over luxury gifts, and what critics characterize as a broader pattern of privilege, discretion, and questionable decision-making. Disclosures indicate that Labour donor Lord Wad Ali provided Victoria Starmer with over £5,000 worth of designer clothing, while Starmer reportedly received close to £19,000 in high-end attire. Although these items were formally registered with Parliament, unease is said to be growing behind the scenes. Starmer has argued the clothing supported a professional public appearance for both him and his spouse, yet some question why a senior political figure and his partner would require such support. The optics appear uncomfortable for a leader associated with advocating for working people, but the issue extends further. It also emerged that the family remained at Lord Ali's £18 million penthouse well beyond their son's exam period, with limited clarification offered. Observers continue to ask who covered the extended stay, who else may have been present, and whether more modest alternatives were possible, leaving a series of questions still unresolved. efforts to explain the arrangement have, critics say, been met with limited responses, brief denials, or firm refusals to engage. Westminster gossip circles now allege that security footage related to the situation showed Starmer and Lord Ollie within private areas, and that the material was discreetly handled by officials. Starmer's team insists the footage holds no public significance and firmly rejects the speculation, though skeptics view the response as overly forceful. Sources also suggest that several journalists, including individuals connected to comedian Jim Davidson, who first referenced the issue humorously in public, encountered subtle pressure to step back from the story. Some report reduced access, while others claim they received warnings from figures said to have links to senior political circles. For critics, this suggests not only questions around luxury benefits and elite associations, but also attempts to discourage deeper examination. Meanwhile, discussion continues in Westminster and beyond about supposed video clips described by commentators such as Isabel Oakeshott, said to show late-night meetings, unfamiliar visitors, and situations that could prompt ethical concerns. Starmer's office labels all such claims as malicious rumor, yet reassurance appears incomplete among some within Labour. One unnamed MP has reportedly described the issue as a slow-burning credibility concern that could intensify unexpectedly. Set against earlier reports of expensive gifts, disputed benefits, and extended stays in luxury accommodation, public sentiment appears to be shifting. Starmer, once commended for discipline and directness, now faces the risk of being viewed as another well-connected figure entangled in the type of insider culture his party pledged to confront. The matter drew wider attention after it emerged that Lord Ollie, a significant Labour donor, had provided Victoria Starmer with more than £5,000 in designer clothing, while Starmer received close to £19,000 in apparel. Though later registered, Victoria's items reportedly became public only following media scrutiny, prompting renewed debate about openness. For many observers, key questions persist: why a financially secure couple would accept such costly gifts, and why they originated from the same benefactor. Tensions rose further when reports confirmed that Starmer's family spent several weeks in Lord Ollie's £18 million penthouse during the GCSE period. Starmer defended the stay as providing his son a quiet space to study, yet critics pointed out the family remained long after exams concluded, prompting remarks such as whether a library wouldn't have sufficed. Public attention has now shifted from the penthouse itself to the larger questions it raises. Is Lord Ollie's generosity purely personal, or does it carry influence? Given Ollie's role as a major Labour donor, it's easy to see why concerns about political favour have entered the discussion. As additional leaks surface and more MPs quietly voice unease, the public is left asking the question no politician wants looming. Who is Keir Starmer truly accountable to, and why do these stories keep mounting?